Get your glasses up. Get your glasses up. A toast to the men.
Welcome to A Toast to the Men with your guy S.D. Booker. Thanks for joining me. It's a beautiful day. It's good to be here. Good to have you guys and gals listening in. Thank you, Toasters. Once again, I got my road dog, my girl, my lady, my friend with me. Nikki, how you doing, baby?
I'm doing good, baby. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Doing great. How was your week so far?
My week was productive, busy with work and stuff going on, but happy it's the weekend and ready to enjoy.
Yeah, no doubt. I wanted to tell you, and it's weird I'm telling you now, right? Typically we have the Wednesday night Bible study, and I've been pushing it off every other Wednesday now since we get to a place where I got to dig deeper. You got me digging deeper into the Word, and it got to come with something of substance, not just gibberish and mailing it in. But this past Wednesday, we really didn't get into the Word. I'm working with some things, trying to get a lesson together on a certain thing I've been kind of struggling with. But we spent time just talking. I think we spent over an hour just talking and sharing. And I like that. I like that. We may need to add that to the mix of the repertoire instead of being so rigid and predictable. Sometimes just not get into the Word, just fill each other out and talk. I learned some things I didn't know about Wednesday, and I was like, wow, maybe we need to do that, because we talk a lot. We sit in bed, talk a lot. We talk in passing, but to sit at the table, no distractions, no TV, no phone, and just talk. You know what I'm saying? I think that's rare. I think people need that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea for us to, spend more time doing that, like you said, and then it's not as prescriptive because, we didn't have a plan for that evening or what we were going to discuss, and just let it flow, and it was a good conversation.
No doubt. Well, Toasters, I hope you had a good week. Hope you're going into the weekend blessed, overjoyed, and content. Content. But we got some topics today. It's been a busy week.
It has.
I'm going to bring up something also within our topic, conversation that we talked about last night. But first off, I want to start off with 50 Cent. 50 Cent and T.I. And Toasters, I don't come from a gossipy angle, but in this instance, it's going to be surface level gossip, but I want to dig deeper into this on a esoteric, spiritual level, and a psychological level too. So, what's your take on this whole 50 Cent and T.I. Fiasco?
Oh, what's my take on it? I mean, for one, I think it's unnecessary. I think that it's escalated to a point that it didn't have to. And I think that it's probably coming from a place of 50s, and maybe there's some other stuff going on. Maybe there's some hurt or feelings that we don't quite see that's causing him to react the way that he is, because I feel like it was a little unnecessary the way that it's escalated thus far.
Yeah, I agree. The unnecessary part, I think that's twofold. For 50 Cent, I think it's business as usual, status quo for him. To be petty, to hit low.
Yeah.
So we can say, man, this was unnecessary for 50. We used to this from you, man. You overkilling, you're overdoing it. You're wearing out your welcome. But I think for T.I., it was very necessary. Yeah, I think he had to do what he had to do.
Yeah, and then where you just mentioned for 50, at what point is it to the point where it's, enough, right? Because at this point, we're, business as usual. We're used to him doing this, right? He's been doing this for years, and there's nothing new for him. But at what point is it enough, right? Like, I mean, he's more than grown at this point, right? He's not new in his career. So, I don't know. At what point is it enough where he should have matured to a different way to approach these situations.
Yeah, you would think with 50, he would be ahead of that and know that because he's a reader and a studier, follower of the 48 Laws of Power. He even came out with a book, The 50 Laws of Power, with author Robert Greene, who's the author of the 48 Laws of Power. And he should know when to pull up, when you've gone too far, and how cheers can turn into jeers if you stay too long. It's like watching a fight. Nowadays I don't want to watch a fight unless it's professional, but growing up, we watch fights, we see fights, and we was all looking forward to a fight, a good fight. Everybody enjoyed a good fight, well, most of us. And it's entertaining until someone is just getting the mess beat out of them. And it's overdoing it. Somebody's overkilling, overbeating them. And then it's like, it's not so entertaining anymore. And then, it's like that guy turns into the villain. It's like, it's a thin line between being a warrior and being a bully. And I know when to pull up. I would have thought 50 knows that, but I think he overplayed his hand, and none of us expected for T.I.'s kids
right.
to come into play
right.
and participate. I don't think 50 expected that.
But they're not kids no more.
No.
That's the other thing. They're not kids no more.
These are grown men.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are grown men. And what's interesting is, the comments. Sometimes the comments are more entertaining than the content. And you can find a lot out what's going on through the comment section without even really looking at the video or hearing the audio. But what shocked me is so many people, particularly women, were in 50's defense. That shocked me, and then I thought about it. And I was like, many women have not experienced the protection and the loyalty of a man, and experience being under the guard of a man that would go hard for you and die for you, literally lay down his life for you. I don't think many women have experienced that, and you could tell by the comments.
Yeah, I think that's true. I saw another clip where I believe it was TMZ that was looking to talk to T.I. and Tiny. They came out of a building, and they went to ask Tiny a question about what's going on and this whole, I guess we'll say beef or whatever we want to call it, and how she felt about her picture and all of that. And before she had a chance to answer, T.I. stepped in and shut it down. Right. He covered her.
Right.
Not that she couldn't answer herself, but why should she have to answer that question, right? He stepped in and covered her, and also, redirected the conversation in a way of, again, covering her and making sure that she's good, because she shouldn't have to feel like she has to step out there. Like, she is a public figure, we know that. And again, she can very well answer for herself. She's done it 1,000 times, but she has a husband who is there to cover her and to protect her. And in moments like this, make sure that she's good.
Right. And yeah, that's profound. Have somebody cover you. And in a relationship, we should cover each other. But T.I. knows things we don't know. He knows the Tiny at home, how she's processing this. She might be emotional about it. She might, be temperamental about it. We don't know. And it could be a lose-lose for her no matter how she responded. So he's like, I'm going to take the lead on this. And I've seen teammates do that for each other. I've seen LeBron do it for Kyrie. I've seen KD do it for Westbrook. And that's because maybe they're not used to being in the media answering questions, or they know this person is ultra sensitive about this topic, and they're gonna lose at the end of the day. How they're gonna respond. So let me take the lead on this. Right now, I'm the sober mind.
Yeah.
Because we don't hear a lot from Tiny in the media.
Right.
She don't give many interviews.
Right.
So I wouldn't, even though she's been in the industry longer than T.I., I wouldn't say she's more seasoned in dealing with the media, though.
Yeah, I don't know if she's more seasoned, but I think she is very smart and she's
No doubt.
strategic with how she approaches these situations. And what I see from her as a woman is a woman who feels safe, right, and in the comfort of her husband, where she knows she doesn't have to, right? She doesn't have to be out there to be loud and be whatever and doing whatever. Like, she could sit back. She could just sit back and she's good and she knows that. And you know, as they say, I love that for her.
No doubt, no doubt. Now, you know, I like to bring things objectively and look at things from all different sides and angles. I don't necessarily take a position, but just look at things from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
Tiny gave people, the public, and 50 in this particular instance, ammunition. Give them ammunition to run with.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't know Tiny had a BBL and had some difficulties with it. Looks like it looks like a deformity. I think she's repaired that since then. I heard. I'm not sure. We should know that she changed her eye color. Surgically changed her eye color. Now contacts. I'm talking about surgical procedure. That's opening you up for critique, criticism, reprimand, like whatever. That's opening you up for that. I know she's a celebrity, a public figure, but when you let the public know these things, you open yourself up for ridicule, especially with people like 50 Cent.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think it's difficult though because I'm pretty sure when she went into it, right, and got the procedures done, she didn't go into it thinking like this was going to be botched or they were going to be issued, or you know, she wanted her eye color change for whatever reason. And I don't think she went into it with that being the case. It unfolded the way it did, where you know it probably didn't go as planned, and that was in the public eye. But I don't know how it couldn't be in the public eye for that, right? This is somebody who is in front of the camera most of the time, and if she would have stepped away from it and not shown what happened, then I feel like she might have been criticized on that too, right? So I don't know if there's like a way to go about it when you're in that situation, being a public figure, when you have that happen, because you're already out there, and you know, things happen sometimes, and either way it goes, it's going to be out there. So I don't know if there is necessarily another way that could have been approached.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna notice the BBL. We're gonna notice the difference in the buttocks. We're gonna notice that. But she took us on the roller coaster on the process of her getting her eye color changed, and I don't think anybody would have known that other than people close to her. Like, so you know, I think she's showing her hand that she might be dealing with some insecurities.
Yeah,
and you never want your woman to be exposed like that. It's okay for me to know what my woman struggles with, you know, behind closed doors, and she confides in me, and I know even things she doesn't say. I study, you know, we're going to study our woman. We know certain things, but for the public to know, I mean, that puts you in a different mode of protection.
It is, and that got to be difficult. To have to work through on both of their ends, because you know T.I. has to see his wife be ridiculed, because you know I know that 50 brought it up, but that's also not the first time somebody mentioned it, right? It's just now that it's been,
he has the bigger voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think his voice or his theme might be it's definitely bigger than TMZ. I don't think TMZ comes from a place of they post it and they may comment. But he's actually going in.
Oh yeah, it's going to pick up steam.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't provide commentary, if he just posts a picture, people are used to knowing how 50 rolls. So we know there's a a beef or there's issues, and then he posts a picture, we know what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people in the comments like, he didn't say anything. Come on, man. You can't have it two ways. You can't say a picture speaks a million words, but then say he didn't say anything. Like, he said something.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But he, it's interesting because, we don't see him in many relationships. We have seen him in relationships, but we don't see him in many relationships. But, he would definitely have that same energy, if not more, if this was over his lady.
Right.
Right. If it was pictures and stuff floating around, talking about his woman, he for sure would have a different type of energy about it.
No doubt. But that's one of the reasons I think 50's not really public with his relationships or doesn't really get attached. I think he comes from he really hasn't lost that street mentality that you don't let brothers know you got a woman, you don't post your woman, you don't let people know where you live because people hit you where you're weak at. And I think he comes from that. He doesn't really want any attachments like that to make him weak or to be perceived as weak. But he definitely has weaknesses, and I'm surprised more people hadn't attacked him. Like for his, relationship with his kids, young King Harris attacked his mom, and people may say that's wrong, but man, 50, this the era we in. People saying dig up your people, and
he opened up the door.
He opened up that door. So you can't tell a person how they're supposed to respond.
Right.
Just don't start nothing. It won't be nothing. But you can't tell me how to respond. I don't have to go tap for tap. I can go double tap, triple tap to your tap. So yeah. But as far as 50, from a psychological standpoint, you kind of touched on it. What's your take on 50 and his history of doing this and how he moves and his relationships and everything? What's your take on that?
I think you kind of mentioned it and made me think about it. I do think he always has his defense up, right? He doesn't want anyone to get too close. He doesn't want anyone to really see him, right? To really see who he is, because we only see who he wants us to see. We see his representative, right? We haven't really gotten to know 50 if you think about it over all of these years and who he actually is. We haven't seen him in those moments where we may have seen other people, right, vulnerable or going through something or anything like that, right? You haven't seen him in those moments. So I think that he does that on purpose. Like he's very calculated with his approach, and he's calculated with who he surrounds himself with, because he doesn't want people to really see who he is. And I think that probably comes from something. Right, I don't know quite what it is. He's mentioned stories about his mom and that relationship and such. So maybe that's what it is. And he just feels like he can't subject himself to certain things because he doesn't want to be hurt.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. I think he suffers from arrested development syndrome. And that's where something traumatic can happen in your life at a young age, and your development is stalled or stunted. A lot of people experience this through traumatic experiences through death or molestation, grape. I won't say the word. It's like grape. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, different things like that. Loss. Maybe they saw something, heard something at a young age where their mind was not fully developed to know how to process what's going on. And they could be stuck there. And I know a lot of people like, well, he's a millionaire. He made a lot of money. Yeah, that doesn't stop your creativity. He's creative. He's manipulative, and he knows how to maneuver. That doesn't stop that, but it can stop the way you deal with things and way you process things. 50 never wants to be vulnerable. Ever wants to show he's vulnerable. But 50 is one of the most emotionally intelligent and deep people that I've seen. And I'm not just saying that because he's my cancer brother, but I've seen 50 cry on like, with no problem. He was on the Howard Stern show, and Howard Stern said, well, I heard you could just cry on like, with no problem. And he did. He just cried with no problem. He's like, how do you do that? He's like, he thinks about his grandmother and his grandmother not being there. So that's emotional depth. A lot of people cannot do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people can't do that. And my daughter, Stacy, Layla was able to do that as a child. I thought about getting her to acting. But she was able to do that as a child, right in front of you crying. I said, what are you thinking about when you do that? She's like, and she would say she's thinking about her grandmother, something happening to her. And she just cried right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you really have to be emotionally intelligent and intact with your emotions to do that. So I think he's hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's interesting from both sides. But I'm gonna leave with that on that.
I wanted to just mention one more thing that came to mind when you were speaking of like the arrested development piece of it. And you and I talked about this before, where men who have experienced the loss of their mothers, because I've told you examples, even with people in my family, where I feel like that may be the case, right? Where they're kind of stuck in time,
Right.
because they lost their mother, and didn't know which direction to go. And I think that's a very real thing and a very traumatic experience that young men go through. And I don't know that it's talked about enough, because losing that woman in your life has to do something to you, right?
No doubt.
And I think men don't know necessarily how to deal with that, right? And to face that. And I don't even know if it is something that you can, I would say, deal with, right? Because that is a very traumatic loss, but it does something. But if you don't have certain type of support and the tools to work through
Right.
what's going on, I think that's why it shows up differently depending on who it is.
Right. I agree. I mean, the first thing is you have to recognize it.
Right.
Like something's off.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not handling things like how I should be handling things. I'm not processing things properly. You got to recognize it. And the only way to recognize it, you have to be a studier, a scholar of self. You have to always be analyzing yourself and sharpening yourself and being around other men and not being the smartest man in the room. And we've talked about that. 50 surrounds himself with people he can control and manipulate. And if you pose a threat to him, or you seen as equal to him or higher than him, he doesn't really want that relationship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want that relationship. And so, I don't know if 50 has any mentors. I don't know if he's humble enough to say, I need a mentor. I got a mentor. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting though. Yeah, speaking of stuck though, I know I was off this subject, but you brought up something that, and I think I told you about this years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago. I was at a bar on a patio smoking my cigar like I do, and a guy, young kid, young man was walking by, and you could tell he was doing bad. And he asked me for some change, and he was young. I'm talking about he had to be like 21, 22. And I was like, man, what's going on with you? And I gave him some change. I think I gave him a few dollars. I was like, what's going on with you? What's happening with you? And he's like, I'm stuck. And I never heard that. And I was like, what do you mean you're stuck? He said, my mom died a few months ago. And he's like, I've been stuck. I can't get out of this. I never heard that. And I made a video about that too. You guys is out there, and I think it's titled somewhat like that, Stuck, or I think the word stuck is in that title. Yeah, y'all pull that up. I never heard that before. And that's a case of arrested development.
Yeah.
But that broadens the conversation of parenting too. Preparing your kids for your demise.
Right. Right.
Because tomorrow's not promised. And that is something my mom did do. We knew a lot. We knew about insurance. We knew how much money we would get or supposed to get if she was to pass. And I'm talking about we were kids, man. And we knew where we were supposed to go, who we were supposed to stay with. And that's a lot to process so in itself, hearing about that.
It is a lot to process, but I think it is a very important responsibility for us as parents. I actually was having that conversation with one of my children the other day about that exact thing because we were talking about, I can't remember, something that was going on, but I was saying that on why I can be difficult with certain situations when I ask them certain things, when I'm challenging them certain ways, and it's because I said I'm preparing you for me not to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I said, I'm not trying to, sound morbid or anything like that, but that's the reality, right? I want to make sure that you are able to survive and thrive in this world without me.
Right.
Because as a parent, that's what I feel like my job is to prepare you, to make sure that you are you are successful in whatever it is that you touch, that you feel confident, that you're able to, take care of your own family, and that you're able to be a productive member of society. And that's my goal. So it may be difficult for you to hear at times on some of the stuff that I say, but that's what it's about for me, is to make sure that you are prepared for me not to be here, because I'm not going to be here forever.
Yeah, that's profound. So true. Kids don't understand it, and parents don't understand it. A lot of parents don't understand that, and it's called tough love. I don't know if it's I would call it tough love. I just think it's responsible parenting. I think you're doing anyone is doing their child a disservice to not prepare them for your non-existence.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially your non-existence the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it has to necessarily be in the actual physical of not being here, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is that your children are going to grow and become adults, and again have their own family and have their spouse and be living their life, right? So right. I am not going to be there every day to make decisions for you or to help guide the decisions. That you have to do that on your own, and you need to know how to do that, because again, I won't be around. So it's not just in the physical of being around, but it's also just overall understanding that your parent is not always going to be there to save you.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, moving on, Trump, Iran, the bombing of Iran, Trump, society, division, the future. So we talked about this a little bit. We didn't talk about Iran so much, but we talked about Trump and how polarizing Trump is, and how people are so invested in Trump, whether it's be a distraction or a detractor, to go against him or to ride for him. People are all in.
Right.
And there's very little objectivity, middle ground. And you know how I feel about this. If you're far right, if you're far left, if you're extreme liberal and extreme conservative, I think you all are the same, just on opposite ends of the spectrum. Extreme anything, or you have no objectivity. There's no room for growth or understanding. You don't leave anything in there, a little opening. But you know what? This might not be what I think it is. You leave no room. I really don't mess with people like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on all that? People on both sides and Trump.
Yeah, I think people right now, to your point, are so invested in this man. Either way, right? They're putting so much energy into him and what's going on. Every move he makes, right, is criticized, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what he does.
Right.
It's going to be brought to the forefront, and everyone, I'm not gonna say everyone, but a lot of people are really invested in that, and I do believe it's causing a distraction, because people are so focused on this one man. Granted, he's the president, but he isn't the end all be all, right? There's so many other things happening, that I don't believe people give themselves a chance to truly digest, because they're so focused on what's happening with this man, what he says, what he does, what decision he makes, where he's just one person, right? Again, there's so many other things happening, so many other people involved, just in the day to day, right? Your local politicians, your state politicians, and not paying attention to that because you're so focused on what's happening in Washington versus like what's happening at your doorstep.
Right. I look at people with the side eye who are emotionally driven on either side. Like if you allow, not just Trump, if you allow anyone to get you emotionally aroused, from a negative end or a positive end,
right?
Like I'm not about to faint over nobody, and I'm not about to like shout I hate anybody. Like it's just not that serious to me. Yes, with passion.
They have it with a passion.
With passion, it's just not that serious to me. These are just people. It's not that serious to me, and I don't know everything. I don't know all the ins and outs. What you think it is, it may not be, but you may be accurate of what you think it is too. But like I said, I question anyone that can't have objectivity. If you can't say anything positive about your perceived enemy, I question that.
And that takes a lot of energy, right? It takes a lot of energy to love someone.
Yes.
It takes a lot of energy to hate someone. And hate is so strong.
Yes.
And it comes from a certain place. So to your point, for someone to really say that they hate someone, that takes a lot out of you. And I don't know if people quite grasp that, right? Like the amount of energy it takes to hate someone. It takes a lot to love someone, but I feel like that's like an easier thing to swallow. It's like, oh, okay, like I know that, but I know how I feel, right? I know that I love this person. I know how I feel. But what in you is driving you to hate someone, right? I wonder what people's thoughts are on that. Like what really is inside of you that pulls it out of you to take the energy away from yourself to bring the negative space into it to say, I hate this person.
But see, you said something, and I think that's the core of the problem. You said, and you're speaking to people in general, people are like, quote, I know how I feel about this person. I know I love this person. And that's the problem. Feel. See, we don't look at love as a choice.
Right.
We look at it as a feeling. But really, true love, agape love, y'all look that up, agape love, that's divine love, spiritual love, is a choice. We just like to love people on a feeling. But you have to make a choice to love, because if you don't consciously love, you're going to be up and down in your feelings, up and down in your emotions, and your love is going to be fickle.
Yeah.
It's going to be fickle because you're going on feeling. And a lot of times we choose to hate.
Yeah.
And we don't choose to love.
Right.
We just going on our feelings.
Right.
Right? And that's the love of a child. And we talked about this maybe a week or two ago, how children can be like, man, you're the best mom. You're the best mom in the world. And then a week later, I hate you.
Right.
Whoa. How was you the best mom?
Right.
1 week, and then the next week they hate you.
Because I say you can't have McDonald's.
Right. Because I'm feeling. They love it on feeling, and it's transactional. From kids, it's transactional.
Yeah.
You know, that's a adolescence love. That's a childish love.
Yeah.
But the word says, you know, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And that's a mentality. That's a mentality, a lifestyle of choosing to love. And that's, you know, that's a different level of maturity.
Right.
You know, just to choose to love.
When you say about it being transactional, it made me think of even like the overall topic where you brought up Trump and how people are invested in that. But that's transactional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is truly about what he is doing for, you know, X population, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing something for me and you're highlighting, you know, my population, then I love you.
Right.
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 And if that's not the case, then I hate you. So it is very transactional. And I get it. Like, you know, when we vote, we listen to people's policies, we listen to what they bring to the table. So
Mm-hmm.
it's somewhat meant to be transactional.
Right.
Right. But I think once it goes over the line of people taking it really, really personal, right? And like on a personal level, and not keeping it at like a logical level of, okay, in reality, here's what this person is presenting. Here's what they're offering in that matter, and not on a like a personal, again, bring it back to how I feel about what they're saying, about
Mm-hmm.
what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's hard for people to be like, you know what, I disagree with you. I strongly disagree with your politics.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with your behavior, but I love you.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for people to do that. I don't know if they want to do it.
Yeah, I don't think so. No,
they want you to feel, you know, like that disgrace with you. Like, I don't know. But yeah,
and then they pass that along, right? We were talking about that too, right? And that's a very dangerous thing to do because they take how they feel and they pass it to the next person, right? Yes. Now I want you to feel how I feel. Now I'll pass this to you because these are my views, right? And I want you to subscribe to my views. So I'm going to pass this to you, and I want you to hold it and feel the same way I do. Now, if you don't, I'm not going to like you either.
You're on the other side.
Yeah. If you don't feel how I feel, and see how I see it, then now I'm not liking you either. So then I'm going to find like-minded people who are going to be on the same page as me, and then it keeps pushing along from there. And again, that message can be dangerous too because you know, all it takes is one ideology, which we've seen in history, right, to start up and continue to get passed along in a positive and a negative way.
Yeah, and people will not even encourage you to do your own research.
Right.
They want you to arbitrarily believe them.
Take my word for it.
Take my word. Well, we experienced that about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We were at an establishment having some cocktails, and a guy out of nowhere, we had just gotten there. And you were seated, and I was at the bar ordering drinks, and a guy comes out of nowhere. I didn't know this guy. I seen him around, but I don't know him. We don't have a rapport.
He acted like he knew you.
Yeah, well, he was a little saucy. And, you know, so I had to exercise some patience with him. But he was like, hey, man, did you see the news today? Or something. I was like, nah, man, I didn't watch the news. He was like, man, did you see they're intimidating people at the voting poll booth? At the voting booths? They're saying, they're asking you, what side are you voting for? What party are you voting for? And they're sending you to that side. He's like, man, that's a form of intimidation. I said, well, man, I hadn't seen that. I said, but I'll look into it. No, man, I wouldn't lie to you. I wouldn't lie to you. I was like, I understand that, brother. I don't know you. But I'll do my own research. And he couldn't let it go. He follows me to the table, trying to sell it to both of us. Right. And we were both like, hey, we got to do our research on that.
Right.
You know, I just can't take your word for it. But there's a lot of people that just take his word.
Yeah, and even that was an example of what I was saying, because when you didn't immediately say, oh, yeah, that's what's happening, and agreeing with them, you said, okay, I'm going to come over to your table.
Yes. And
let me try to get your lady on board.
Yeah, let me try to get your lady on board.
Yeah, let me try to convince her now. Let me bring it to her.
And that could have went left.
Right.
Because I was patient because he was saucy.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to convince you, and I was like, "No, talk to me, man. My woman ain't in. Talk to me." And he was like, "Well, I'm gonna look at her. I'm gonna talk to you. Something slick."
Yeah.
Like, but you know, you gotta be patient with some cats. But yeah. But if you have a strong, independent mind and you think objectively, you're gonna offend some people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna offend some people. But that's the problem with society. That's the problem with race relations, with gender relations, parent-child, crib blood, Republican, Democrat. That's the problem. Nobody's listening. Everybody has hard hearts.
Yeah.
Everybody has hard hearts, and there's no objectivity.
Yeah.
And there's no room. We don't leave room to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We just don't leave room to be wrong. We know we're so right. And it just causes a lot of mess. And the powers that be are laughing.
Right. Right.
Like you were telling me yesterday, you were like, baby, there's no money in peace.
Mm-hmm.
There's no money in cure for diseases. Now, they could put Band-Aids on it, medicate it, but to cure it, the money's gone.
Exactly.
For that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, you know, chaos keeps people employed.
It does.
Keeps the dollars.
Currency.
Keeps the dollars. Yeah, creates currency. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother topic. I don't even know if I want to get into that. We talked about last night about currency.
Yeah.
Yeah, versus the barter system. But
save that for another day.
Yeah, we'll save that for another day. But like I was saying last night, Germany, I think, has done a good job in dealing with their past, the darkness of their past. And light can come out of darkness. And, you know, Germany dealt with the Holocaust. And the way they deal with that is extraordinary. They don't hide from it. They don't run from it. And we run from a lot. We run from a lot. Sorry, y'all. We run from a lot. I'm looking up something I already had saved. Mm-hmm. But we run from a lot in the U.S. We don't address things. We're not honest. We're not transparent. Our school system is not. Our government is not. The people are not honest and transparent. And a lot of us just don't know. We're not educated enough to talk about it in depth. You know, we're just passing along information that we know nothing about and research. We don't do deep dives. But Germany has it right. And I'm just reading a little bit of what Germany has done to handle their darkness and their woes as a society. Now this says, now I'm going to mispronounce this word, I know. It says Germany handles the history of the Holocaust through a process known as Verganger die Bellegang. Well, can you say that?
I think you might have been probably as close as we're going to get with that word.
Yeah. Now that means coming to terms with the past or processing the past. Mm-hmm. Man, that's profound. Which is characterized, it says, which is characterized by a strong culture of remembrance, mandatory education, and extensive financial reparations. See, America ain't ready for that. Mandatory education, remembrance, mandatory education, and extensive financial reparations. Then the nation acknowledges its role as perpetrator. I'm sorry. I need my glasses. Perpetrator of the Holocaust. I'll read that again. The nation acknowledges its role as the perpetrator of the Holocaust, aiming to maintain awareness of these crimes to prevent their reoccurrence.
Yeah, like you said,
we're not ready
America's not ready for that conversation.
We're not ready for that.
That takes a level of responsibility, accountability,
an open heart.
Right.
Our hearts are too hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're children.
Yeah.
Mandatory education means Holocaust education is a compulsory part of school curriculum, often including visits to former concentration camps and the study of the Wiener Republic's failure to prevent Hitler's rise. Now, I ain't got my glasses on, y'all, so I got to bear with me. Culture of remembrance. There are over 300 memorials and documentation centers across the country with significant events held on January 27th, which is Holocaust Remembrance Day. Now we got restitution and compensation. We don't want to talk about that in America.
No.
It says from 1945 to 2018, the German government paid roughly $86.8 billion in restitution and compensation to Holocaust survivors and their heirs. Now, a lot of people in America say, y'all wasn't in slavery. We are the heirs. Yeah, we are the offspring. Right? And we're not shifting the blame. There's healing and education that needs to be done on both sides, all around. And we have legal accountability. Even in recent years, legal proceedings have continued against elderly former guards of Nazi death camps. Then we have legislation. It is illegal to deny the Holocaust or promote Nazi ideology. See, that's how you heal.
Yeah.
That's how you reform.
Yeah. But they have their government taking a stance on it.
Yeah.
Right, but truly taking a stance on it, not the watered down version of what they want it to be, right? No, like they're truly taking a stance on it. And I would assume, right, where they talk about like the mandatory education piece of it, like the education is truly informative, right, and holistic of gaining an understanding of their history. Gaining an understanding of what they've been through, and really making sure that people get a grasp of it, right? Because that's part of healing. Like you do have to face it to be able to move on from it.
No doubt. There has to be an atonement to heal, to move forward. You can't just say get over it.
Exactly.
If something happens within a relationship, a friendship, a marriage, work, there has to be an atonement. We have to address this. Both sides have to communicate, and we have to heal, get over it that way. But we can't just say move on, because these things are passed on. When you have something like the Holocaust, when you have something like slavery, anything like that, these things are passed on from generation to generation, spiritually and psychologically. They have also educational ramifications too, intellectual ramifications. But both sides need to heal for different reasons. My white brothers and sisters are suffering or have suffered as a result of this, in different ways. So both sides need to come together. But atonement, what is atonement? Atonement is the act of making reparation, satisfaction, or amends for a wrong, injury, or sin. Often, like I say, I ain't got on my glasses. Often to restore harmony. It implies covering or paying for a debt. In theology, it refers to reconciliation between God and humanity, specifically through the sacrificial death of Jesus Christ. And before Jesus, he used to give sacrifice lambs, goats, things like that, a blood sacrifice. But now, we can atone through different things. But there has to be an atonement. Yeah. But yeah, I think Trump is the least of our problems. But on the other hand, he's the biggest of our problems. It depends what we're focusing on or not focusing on. So it's going to take the people coming together, getting it together, regardless of your party affiliation.
And that really should be what it's about. Is again, regardless of your party affiliation, because at the root of it all, I believe that most people are really thinking and hoping for the same thing. But again, because there's all these other things mixed in there, again, feeling like you have to take a side and other things going on. But at the root of it all, I truly believe that most people want the same things.
I think deep inside we do want the same. Most of us.
Yeah, most of us.
Most of us. Yeah, not all. Yeah. I think definitely most of it. Maybe we just optimists. Maybe we're naive. Maybe we're naive. But moving on, we've talked about this, and this period back on my radar. The other day, I was watching an interview with former bodybuilding champion John Brown. He's retired now, but he's the father of NFL player, NFL star, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that's a whole nother story why his name changed from his father's last name Brown to St. Brown. You guys got to look that up. But that's all about destiny and speaking things and seeing things that are not as they are, as if they are. But you got to look into that, why his last name changed from Brown to St. Brown, his kids. But what he was talking about, and I've heard LeVar Ball talk about this with his kids. He was talking about creating kids intentionally and purposefully. DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something I thought about later in age. I didn't think about it when I was a young father and creating kids at a young age. I thought about it later, but it matters. And it may seem insensitive because we get caught up a lot of time in this fairy tale, head over heels, dreamy love type thing. And that's cool, but you got to be intentional what you bring. You're creating a whole human.
Right.
You're creating a whole human.
Right.
And you are responsible for what you put in society. Yeah. And you got to know what you want. You got to know, like, what am I creating? And we think about these things within other disciplines, other realms, but not so much when it comes to creating kids.
Right. And then, it's the hard truth, but everything don't mix together.
No, everything doesn't mix together.
Everything don't mix together. And you paying attention to again people's beliefs, people's morals, paying attention to their principles, but also even outside of that, right? There's like the actual DNA of a person, right?
Yes.
Their physical.
Yes.
How they're built.
Aesthetically.
Aesthetically, like. That's the reality, because once you mix together with the other person and whatever comes out is whatever comes out, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to say, but I feel like people have seen somebody like, oh, I don't know what happened there.
And then come out right. Well, we won't mention it. Yeah, we won't mention, but we heard somebody mention that about a celebrity, our celebrity kid the other day. It's just like
it came out wrong.
It came out wrong. Yeah, but we won't go there. But it matters.
It does.
Not just aesthetically, but what's in the blood.
Yeah.
The history. There's heart disease running in your family. There's diabetes, cancer. We got all kinds of things out there. What runs in your blood psychologically? There's mental health illness run in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Bipolarism, schizophrenia, different things. We don't even think about these things.
Yeah.
We just out here creating kids.
Yeah.
And we need to be more intentional. What we're doing. And I've heard LeVar Ball say, and he took some heat. I've heard Chad Ochocinco mention that he looks at women's ankles and their legs and their wrists and see what kind of athletes they would be.
Mm-hmm.
LeVar said he knew when he met his wife, he said, we're going to make some babies. We're going to make some pro players. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that matters. But not just athletically. You could, if you say, I want a scholar.
Yeah.
It's
about what you want.
I want a chief justice. I want a president.
Right.
I want,
pay attention.
Yes. Yeah. I want a top attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be intentional about that. Yeah. I talked to you about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have talked about that.
What's your thoughts? What's your thought?
No, I had never thought about it before you mentioned it, right? And paying attention to those things, but it does make sense. And like you said, you and I have talked about it. You know, with especially me being tall.
Yeah. I said I want a scholar athlete. I want a scholar athlete. She's smart, curvy, tall, well built, proportionate. Yes, no weird built. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did talk about that, but I think it does make sense, and I didn't take offense to it. With the fact of like you paying attention to those things, because on the vice versa side, I said, oh, okay, let me think about those things too, right? From your perspective on how you're built, you know, as well as how educated you are, right? So I started thinking about those things and saying, okay, like, would this be somebody that I wanted to mix DNA with to create a child? So I think that it does make sense when you really break it down. And I don't think that it should be taken wrong, because, you know, there is somebody for everybody out there. It just depends on, again, what are those things that mean something to you? What are the things that you're looking for? What are the things that you're willing to, you know, kind of give into, right? Because, you know, somebody may not be 110% of all the things, but what are those things that truly matter to you that you're looking for as you are bringing a child into this world? Because even after they're born, right, those other things play a role. If you're not seeing eye to eye with your principles and your morals, it's going to cause conflict when you're raising your child, right? And that's going to lead into other things if you're not on a same page on how you may view certain things. So that stuff matters as you're producing a child.
No doubt. And I spoke on this our last episode that we did together. That's why it's so important also, not just being intentional and purposeful, getting together and then procreating, but it's also important to move away and establish your own lineage, establish your own land somewhere else, away from both sets of parents. Because then you weed out the things you don't like. You create your own traditions, your own principles, establish your own code of conduct. And then we build on each other. Like, oh, y'all did this? Y'all ate together as a family? Well, we didn't do that, but yeah, I want to bring that to my life. Or oh, y'all went to the doctor 3 times a year, got checkups. Well, we didn't do it. Well, I want to bring that into our family mode. And oh, we both got discipline, you know, extensively with a belt or a hand. Well, we don't agree with that. We cutting that out. We're not disciplining our kids like that. You know, we believe in something else. But when you stick around and raise them kids around the environment you grew up in, you better believe they're going to judge you for not whooping your kids.
Right.
Believe they're going to try to whoop your kids when you ain't around. If you try to, you know, allow them to babysit, it's going to be a conflict of interest, you know. But yeah, that's so important. Something else he mentioned is that he didn't leave a lot of wiggle room, a lot of decision making to his kids and what they're going to be. He said, this is what you're going to be. This is what I'm raising. This is what I'm creating. My kids are going to be in sports. You know what I'm saying? You can do some other stuff on the side, but this is your focus. He's like, we were not wasting our time. He threw some stuff on out there, like, what do you say, hockey or something else he said. He said because that wasn't big in our town, it was going to be a waste of time. He said, but baseball, football, basketball. And said, we didn't spend a lot of time on basketball because they weren't that tall. So we're not wasting time. He's leading them in a direction. How do you feel about that? Parents leading the kids in the direction. And he said he pulled off when they were in college. He let them decide what college they were going to get into. But up until then, till they were in college, choosing their college, they chose their college, and he pulled off. But he had to lead them in a direction up until that point, or they're going to be everywhere, scatterbrained.
Yeah. I think there's a fine line when it comes to that. I do think that it makes sense to assist your child in leading them down a path, right? Versus just kind of being all over the place. But I say that it's a fine line because the other thing is I think you have to have a balance in there around what you want for them, what they're good at, right? But also a piece of it does have to be what they would be invested in, not exactly what they like, but I think what can become dangerous is you can push them down this path all you want, right? And then they get there, they see the end goal, and because this isn't what they feel passionate about or invested in, they veer off. Right, last minute, right. You there, you see it, and then they veer off, and then that causes a disappointment. I know I would be disappointed, right? You don't invest all this time, and then they veer off. So I think that you should encourage them down the path and make sure that they're focused on that, and but paying attention to those nuances along the way, right? Like if you pick up that, you're bringing them to baseball practice every time, and I mean. Yeah, they got the basics, but like there's something missing, right? There's something missing. You may have to pivot a little bit and say, okay, let me put them in football. Let me see how they react to that, right? And figure out what that is, so that way it can be that balance between it. Because again, once they become an adult, I think all of that will be wasted if they get to that point where. Once how kids are, once they get their own mind and got their mind made up, that could be a whole nother problem. So I think it's important to pay attention also to who your kid is and to realize, okay, let me figure out how I can pivot and make sure that we're getting the kind of best of both.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's a thin line. You want them to have a sense of independence, but you don't want them all over the place.
Right.
You want to have some kind of direction. And they have to understand, I think the Jewish community does well at this. It's bigger than you.
Yes.
What's good for your community? Do something that interests you, that you excel at. But what's good for your community? What's good for your people? I think most cultures, other than Jewish culture, is very selfish and think about themselves.
And I think that's how they become invested, though, right? So not just you being invested in the future, but they also become invested.
The whole clan, the whole family is invested in you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And you can do other things you want to do, but let's handle this first. What's gonna be good for the whole family? Yes. Yes. That's gonna take some work to get to that point. For many cultures and ethnicities. Yeah.
But I think on the other side of that, what we see now with society and some of this generation is it's more towards the latter, right? Where being free as children and having a little too much freedom as children, I think is not a good thing. And that's why I said it's a fine line, because on the other end of it, if you allow your children to have way too much say and they are going to be all over the place, and then they're going to be 20, 25, 30 still sitting on your couch because I don't know what I want to do, I'm not sure, I'll figure it out, that happens a lot.
Right. I mean, the more, and I've learned this, the more disciplined, the more structured I am, the more freedom I have. Yeah. You're building up equity of freedom when you on the front end, you're disciplined and structured and orderly. You build up freedom. Yeah. But the more freedom you have or undisciplined principles you have, more disorder you have on the front end, the more freedom you lack on the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah, for choices. Yeah.
I think that leads into, or I guess I would say, like, circles back to what we were saying about preparing your children too. Like, we're doing them a disservice, I believe, if you're not teaching them that discipline right earlier on. So again, as they get older and as they have to do it on their own, that they are prepared to do that versus still leaning on you, because again, you're not always going to be there, right? So sometimes having to have those hard conversations and potentially having to make the decision for them, like, hey, this is what you're going to do, can be difficult. We know that you may have to be the bad guy for a second, but you got to think about, again, the end result. What happens later on? What does this trickle down to once they get older? And I think that that's the important part that we have to pay attention to. That we can't always take the easier way of giving them that freedom, because it isn't really going to pay off later on.
Facts. I think it's just that we ended on that note. But anything you want to add, though?
No, I think I'm good. Very good conversation today.
Very good conversation. Another episode. Yeah, this was fulfilling. I enjoyed it. Yeah. All right, toasters. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button. Comment. Let us know you're engaged. Until next time. Peace.